So, Berto, it's been a while since we just did like a random episode in which we just did some tougher bluffs or other kinds of things. So I thought we'd do that today, mostly because I ran out of time to prepare for this episode. And so that I'm just being lazy. What do you say?
Is that tough or bluff?
What do you say, Berto?
Let's do it.
This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Who are you, Berto?
My name is Humberto Castañeda, and I make red balloons for children.
So the reason why I ran out of time is because I've been working on a deep dive on asexuality, and I thought I would be able to prep for it over a couple days, and found that it is much more of a bigger topic in the scientific and psychological literature, and so I have to spend probably a number of weeks prepping for it.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see. But anyway, tough or bluff, Berto. In the U.S., TV commercials for drugs are increasingly longer and offer more information about the conditions and the drugs.
Tough.
Tough, so you say tough?
Tough. I mean, all I can think of is, as a child, I remember commercials for drugs being like, oh, my head hurts. I'm not going to be able to make it into work. Try Leviatol. And it's like, oh, thank you. Leviatol will help you. Then not so, blah, blah, blah. That's the end of the commercial. Nowadays, it's like, sure, you have that normal part, and then at the end, Leviatol might make you sick in the mornings, and then in the evenings, you might lose one kidney, and then you might also have your lungs compressed and come out through your brain, and then it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And then they get to the small print.
So I thought this was tough too, but when I read the study, it's actually bluff. So
what?
So drug commercials are definitely longer.
Okay.
But they actually offer less information than before.
Whoa.
Yeah. So this isn't compared to when we were kids. This is compared to 15, 20 years ago.
Okay.
So compared to 2004, commercials today are 30% longer, which seems low because to me, the drug commercials, they're like 5-minute long.
Yeah, that's true. They're like mini movies.
Yeah. But they offer half the information.
Oh.
And a lot of the extra fluff is like lifestyle stuff, you know, like, riding on a horse on the beach.
Right.
Tough or bluff, Berto? Women are better than men at reading emotions in others. Tough or bluff? Women are better than men at reading all emotions in others.
No. Bluff.
Why?
There's no way that there's this categorical superiority in just one of the two sexes. On something where, like this is a case where we're using the same eye capability, the same, mostly the same hearing capability.
It's okay. So you're right. It is bluff. So what they found is that women and men are the same when it comes to reading emotions, except for one emotion.
Oh. Which
women are actually better at.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Fear.
No.
Okay. No. Wait, they're better at reading sadness.
No.
What?
Yeah.
Happiness?
No.
Anger?
No.
What's left?
Disgust.
Disgust? Women are better at reading disgust?
Yeah. I mean, slightly, right? Not like massively, but on average.
This explains everything, dude. Well, this is, okay, so a guy goes up to hit on a girl and is oblivious to the fact that she's not into him because he can't read disgust as well as she can. She's disgusted and can read that he's disgusted. No, just kidding.
Yeah, so I posted this one on the Tuesday Tough or Bluff game on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I asked for speculation. There's a lot of weird speculation as to why women would be better at detecting disgusts.
Wow.
I think some people were saying like, well, women need to be able to detect disgust in their children better because the kids could die if they're eating something bad or something. Who knows?
Okay.
But I don't know. But the big finding here is that in general, men and women are equal in their ability to detect emotions in others.
Okay.
That is a major mind screw and a massive slap in the face of the common wisdom that women are more attuned to other people's emotions.
Yeah, I would have never bought into that one.
Right.
But I am surprised that there is one.
But plenty of people do, right? Plenty of people are like, well, of course women are better at detecting sadness and fear. They're just more empathetic. And it's like, no, that is what society tells you.
Yeah.
That is what, that's the narrative.
And I guess maybe because I've always been very, like, introspective about stuff like that. Like, I always observe. I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm just saying I've always really thought about it. Like,
Yeah.
wonder if that person's liking me. I wonder how that person's thinking. I wonder how this.
Well, there's a lot of roads to empathy and being able to read people. And the thing that it's just really taught me about this issue, and a lot of issues sort of peripheral to this, is the majority of therapists are women.
Yeah.
And therefore, the majority of my students in my program are women. And the things that women struggle with are completely not what you would stereotypically think that women would struggle with. They struggle with people crying. You know, they'll come to me. They'll be like, I had a client, and she started to cry, and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do, and I'm like, and you know,
and stereotypically, you would have said, "What? You know what to do? You're a woman."
Or at the very least, or take a more extreme example. Like, I've had plenty of female students and supervisees who don't actually have a lot of sympathy for their clients. They'll actually, you know, they'll be like, yeah, so, you know, he started crying, and, you know, it's just like, woe is me, you know, like plenty of, now men aren't any better than women in that way.
Yeah.
But I've just had a lot of contact with women, and the sort of issues that they have are more identified as traditionally masculine. But the fact is that anyone can have that problem. It doesn't, you know, men and women both have issues when it comes to emotions. They both have issues when it comes to fear of emotion and denial of emotion, and you know, all those kinds of things. You know, Americans are taught something, and and it's not really necessarily by gender lines, except for disgust for whatever reason. Tough or bluff, Berto? According to the best research to date, heterosexual women prefer masculine males during fertile periods of their menstrual cycle. Tough or bluff?
Oh, yeah, I think we've gone down this path before, and I think I was wrong, but I'm probably going to go down the same path again. Tough. During their menstrual cycles or whatever, they prefer more masculine men.
Right. So this is a common wisdom, particularly in evolutionary psychology. Everyone thinks this is true, you know, because the idea has been propagated through at least people interested in evolutionary psychology, and it is bluff.
Okay, but I have a new reason as to why.
Okay, but
I was wrong, but I have a reason.
But let me explain, like, exactly. So this isn't just one study.
Okay.
This was the largest ever longitudinal study. So a lot of studies in psychology are 5 people, 25 people, and you'll find, for example, I didn't look into this, but I'm guessing that if you looked into this, you would find a lot of low samples. You would find a lot of samples of college kids who were in the Northeast, because that's almost the vast majority of psychological research involves college kids living in New England, or, you know, at least in the United States. And what I would find are some studies actually found that there was a slight preference for masculine male pictures when women were menstruating. But there were probably an equal amount of studies that didn't find that. And guess which studies get talked about?
Sure.
and cited by evolutionary psychologists who are trying to demonstrate evolutionary bases for behavior. Well, you know, and then it just becomes dogma. But this study is just like, okay, look, we really, you know, let's spend the money. Let's really look at it. Let's take a long term. Let's not just look at them for 1 month. Let's look at them for like several months. A huge sample, try to get representation from a lot of different groups, and guess what? No signal.
Right.
The fact is humans, now in other species, I'm guessing it would be different. But anyway, the point is that our species apparently, you know, like you have animals that will go into heat, for example. When they're ovulating, they act very strangely, you know, because they had a survival. They were selected for a particular kind of reproduction. From what I understand, for humans, we evolved a kind of reproduction where we have sex all the time, and some of those times just happen to be the times when you're ovulating,
right?
Because of the way that our societal structure existed, 2 million years ago. It didn't necessitate a heat moment, partially because we lived together all the time.
Yeah.
So in other animals, it's like they isolate, and it's like, okay, I'm going through heat. I have to find a man. I have to find a male of my species. Normally, we don't interact. And so I'm going to go into heat, and I'm going to send off all these signals and attract a male from across the Serengeti to me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I could be bastardizing this whole thing.
Well, but I find it interesting that because it doesn't seem like this would be a counter-finding for an evolutionary psychologist, because you could simply re-explain in evolutionary terms from a different perspective and say, oh, well, that's interesting. Well, then maybe here's a different hypothesis. It used to be 2 million years ago, there was still an advantage to male physical dominance. But shortly thereafter, 1 million years ago, it started being that the dominance in the tribes and in the pockets of subhumans wasn't actually mostly about physical prowess, but it was about who could guide the tribe to the right food supplies, blah, 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 blah. And so then it started becoming a little more random as to who, stuff like that. The point is, like, you could change the hypothesis and still talk about evolution.
I agree with what you said, but I don't understand the build-up to that.
The build-up is that I'm surprised that this would be a blow to evolutionary psychology.
Right. I mean, the point, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I still don't understand the build-up, but...
Because you said, earlier you said, like, shockingly to most evolutionary psychologists who really wanted you didn't say it this way, but it was like, who were expecting the more masculine one to be, because you think animals and blah blah blah.
Right. So
yeah.
Right, because traditionally some evolutionary psychologists will adhere to notions that support the structure of gender politics of its time.
Yeah.
And instead of looking at it more scientifically,
yeah,
and observationally, and more with more integrity of just like, well, what we find is what we find, and we shouldn't adhere to a particular point of view, politically speaking.
That makes sense.
And that's always been my contention, is that absolutely we evolved psychologies.
Yeah.
Babies are born with a urge to suckle.
Yeah.
Babies are born with an urge to look into the eyes of their mother as they are suckling or as they're cuddling with their mothers.
And prefer blue.
Yeah. Well, if they're boys. Babies are born with a need for physical warmth and interaction. We evolved psychologies.
Right.
So let's look at the science. Let's observe humans.
So your meta point is usually that's not how it comes about often. It's like, I have a politically motivated or sociologically motivated hypotheses, and I'm going to try my hardest to make it bear fruit.
Right, which is kind of what your buildup was related to. It was like you were constructing a story in your head.
No, but I was doing it from a different perspective. I was saying, I'm surprised that an evolutionary psychologist would feel defeated from such a finding.
Right, but then just to point out, your hypothesis shift still included, certain stories that might be true, but it's just really hard to demonstrate.
Absolutely, but
Tougher Bluff. People who catch yawns from others are more likely to donate to charity. Tougher Bluff.
People who catch yawns?
So you know,
what does that mean?
People who are more susceptible to yawn.
Oh, like you yawn and then I yawn. I caught your yawn.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So
people who catch yawns are more susceptible to donating to charity.
More likely to donate.
More likely. Oh, I'm going to go tough.
Why?
Because if you are more susceptible to going along with someone else, hell, you're going to hate this. It means your empathy meter is higher.
No.
And hence, your empathy for other humans is higher, so you want to donate more money.
Why would you think I would hate that?
I don't know, because you generally, you dislike generalizations about empathy.
No, that's interesting.
Okay.
I would absolutely have thought that to be true. It's not true. It's
it's
bluff.
not.
But
What?
that's what I would have thought too.
Okay.
But I still want to know, why would you think I would not
I
like
don't know.
that?
We've gotten into back and forth about empathy, so I'm now sensitive to the empathy.
So
word.
you just think anytime you say anything
Oh
about
God, empathy! Don't kill me. Have some empathy for me.
yeah,
Empathy is the new evolutionary psychology.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's what I would have thought. No, it's bluff,
it's
though.
bluff.
Research published has found that people who are susceptible to catching yawns are no more likely to donate to charity.
Okay. So
Which is funny. The meta thing that's funny here is that they studied such a thing.
That is crazy. It kind of confirms all the suspicions from the right about the ridiculousness of these highfalutin professors researching bullshit.
Yeah. And just to point out, as someone who had to come up with original research for my dissertation, it is a very hard thing to do, to come up with something new.
Yeah.
And something that you're capable of studying in a year with no money.
Right.
You have no money.
Right.
You have no time. What can you study?
This one seems like the kind of thing where you're like, dude, what am I going to do?
Oh, yeah.
And then as you're thinking, your buddy yawns and then you kind of yawn. You're like, oh, I've got it.
No. I've had many conversations with peers and with students about this issue. It's a very... people typically, when they are working on their dissertation, developing what they're going to do,
right,
they will think about it for years and talk about it for years, because you have a lot of time during your doctorate to like mull it over, and really from the very beginning you start kind of thinking about what you're going to do. Professors will even say, "Ooh, sounds like a good dissertation idea," and so people will think about it for a long time because there's so many options, and you have typically no idea how to conduct research, and you have no idea how to predict how difficult the study is going to be. And so I could absolutely see this person, this is just a guess, obviously it's probably not true, but I could see a scenario where the student is like, or the professor, because it's the same thing for professors when they have to publish or perish. It's a similar process for them. It's like, what am I going to study? I don't have any money. What can I do? Blah, blah, blah. But I could absolutely see someone like, okay, I want to look into factors that lead to people donating to charity. They probably didn't care about the yawning thing. It's probably more, because you study things that you're passionate about.
Sure.
So someone's probably passionate about charity, and it's like, well, I want to know about people with empathy, like, do they donate to charity more? Or, what's the differences about people who donate to charity?
And they might have tested like 100 different factors or something.
Well, a well-designed study wouldn't do that, because it's too many.
No, right. No, not in the same, but like they might have said, okay, I have, I think all the following 5 things might do it, and I'll do 5 studies.
So if there's already been a litany of other studies looking at empathy and other kinds of factors, it's like, well, what's left?
Right.
Yeah. Well, how about yawning?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the person who did that study was bummed out that it didn't work, because when you find it, that it didn't work,
right,
then it's like, well,
because then if it were working, imagine think about this from a monetary perspective.
Yeah.
You hold what do you call it? One of those rallies or a big thing in a room, and you invite all these people in, and then you talk about your topic, and you have someone watching the audience, and you have some planted yawners.
Yeah.
And then you see whoever yawns, you go right after them, and you save yourself the trouble with the other ones.
So, podcast listeners out there, if you want to become a patron of the podcast, and you caught that yawn, it means nothing, because if you're a yawn catcher or not, you're just as likely to be a cool person and become a patron of the podcast.
Can we do an ASMR episode?
Oh my God. There's this guy on YouTube. He has a channel where he makes fun of videos, and he was making fun of this ASMR girl. She's like 12, and it's like super sexualized on YouTube and stuff. Yeah.
That's
anyway.
terrible.
So yeah, tougher bluff, Berto.
Okay.
Kids who are young for their grade. So, you're born, your birthday's like in May or June or something. Kids who are young for their grade are less likely to be confident in school and are less likely to go to college? Tough or Bluff?
So they're younger in school, they're less confident, and less likely to go to college.
Well, they're young for their grade.
For their grade, yeah.
So they're not, they're in the, generally the cutoff is like summer, like your birthday's in
Yeah,
January.
I was young for my grade.
You were young for your grade?
Yeah.
Your birthday's in January.
Yeah.
How would you be young for your grade?
Because, especially in Colombia.
Is the cutoff a different time in Colombia?
Well, I was one of the youngest people in my class in Colombia.
One of the youngest people in your class. So that's bizarre because mine is in December.
Yeah.
And I was one of the older people.
Yeah. I don't know and in fact, it would have been worse because they had actually to.
Did you start early or something?
I must have. Yeah.
So you started like a half year early for your grade.
It must be. Yeah.
Maybe. Okay.
And now, granted, in Colombia, there's only 11 grades. So I would have ended a whole year earlier than here.
So are people young for the grade? Likely.
Well, okay. Anecdotally with me, no. But overall, I'm going to go tough. People that are young for their grade might struggle a little bit more and then feel more insecure about their abilities.
Why?
Because since they're 1 year lower in development, at least in some of the grades, they might find some of the topics a little harder. Like for me, I actually found math extremely hard in in second grade, because I had been brought from the United States and they had to put me back in first grade.
Yeah. Well, that's a different scenario.
Well, fine. But I'm saying like they'll feel insecure. Like I felt insecure about math. So therefore, it might translate into them being like, yeah, I'm not so good at school. And then they might not want to go to college. That's my...
Yep, that's true. That's the speculation. It's tough. They found that 58% of teenagers who were older than most of the other students in their grade enrolled in college, compared to just 52% who were younger in their peers. Wow. So it's not a huge difference, sure, but it's significant, right? Yeah. So 52% as opposed to 58%.
Yeah.
So and people have been debating this for a long time, but there's been a lot of studies looking into this, and it's something that I will tell families when they're at this decision point, because a lot of families, they'll be like, okay, well, my kid's birthday's in August, for example, and the school will allow him to enter kindergarten as a younger person at the younger end of the spectrum. Or even September. Some kids, their birthday's in September, and they're like, well, you can come in even before they're 5 years old. So they're like almost 5, and they'll allow them to start kindergarten. And can you think of why a parent would want to do that?
Because mentally you're thinking, oh, the sooner I get them started, the smarter they'll be.
Interesting.
What
else?
My kid is smarter than average, so they can handle this.
Yeah. What else?
Well, I'm busy, and the sooner they go to school, the less I can.
Yeah.
The more time I have.
That's the key.
Yeah.
In my experience.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I can get free childcare and not have to worry about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I should have thought of that.
But the other factors you can imagine as well. My kid's special. Let's get a jump on this.
Yes.
And it's actually not a good idea. There's behavioral problems that are more likely.
Right.
Dropout, drug addiction. For, I think, obvious reasons. Like, just sort of extend it for, people are like, well, it's just 6 months. Like, what's the big deal? Or, it's just not that much of it. But let's take it further. Let's enroll kids in kindergarten when they're 2. How do you think that's going to go over? Well, okay. Let's have third graders who are like, 5 years old. Like we all know that's not going to work.
So there's a threshold somewhere.
Right. And so, but there's a gradation.
Yeah.
So the idea is the older you are, the more life you've had, the more emotional regulation, the more maturity, the smarter you are, the more your brain has developed, and therefore you're able to handle things better.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's pretty obvious. And so what I tell people is, like, if you have a choice and it's possible and you don't
wait,
and you can afford childcare, which is another thing, then yeah, absolutely wait.
I wonder if there is any data showing if the younger sibling I'm going to make it very specific. The younger sibling out of only 2 siblings of the same sex ends up feeling more insecure about their abilities.
Maybe not that particular question, but I know what you're getting at is that for some families, the factor might not be that they're young for the grade, but it might be.
Oh, well, so what I was getting at is in the home, I'm imagining this scenario where you're a little boy and you have an older brother and you see the older brother being able to do a set of things and you try to do the same set of things and it's really hard for you or you just can't do it because you're little. And I wonder if that puts this early idea in your head that you're not as good as your older brother, because even though it's just because you're just younger. And it's a hypothesis.
Yeah, it could be.
And I say that because my brother, Alejandro, I hope you're listening, is so
Does he listen to the podcast?
I hope so. I don't know. But he's so much feeble. I just ruined my own thing. So I was going to say he's more feeble-minded, but I can't even say it. So I think I've disproven my point.
You're trying to razz him.
I was trying to say he's more feebler-minded. Yeah. Oh, never mind.
He's actually a pretty smart dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a break. When we get back, let's do some more random stuff. What do you say, Berto?
Let's do it.
All right, we're back from the break. Let's thank some of our new patrons who just signed up. We got Rob. We got Steven from Seattle.
Woo!
Where is he in Seattle? Oh, he's pretty close by here. We got Kelsey from Spokane.
Kelsey!
Where my parents grew up. We have Paige from Bellingham.
Whoop, whoop.
We got a lot of people in the Northwest. We got Melanie from Seattle.
Yay!
Melanie lives very close to where we are right now.
She could be listening. Oh, wait.
Brian from San Francisco. We have Linda from Vancouver, BC.
Uh-oh, I didn't say anything for Brian. Yay, Brian. Yay, Linda.
We love Vancouver, BC, you and me.
Oh, yes.
We've gone up there many times.
You know, I haven't been in a long time.
I know.
The last time was with you, I'm pretty sure.
Dave from Brampton, Ontario.
Dave!
Brampton. Shannon from DC.
Woo!
And Amanda and Andrea, who did not say where they're from. And Andrew from Springfield, Illinois.
Woof, woof.
And Fabiha from Tempe, Arizona.
Meow. I'm running out of new sounds.
Leah from Boston, Massachusetts.
Ooh.
Matt from Goodyear, Arizona.
Goodyear?
Yeah.
Good lordy.
Yeah. Actually...
Is that where the company's from?
Matt, maybe. Matt's been around for a while, but for some reason he's coming up as someone that's right here. Anyway, so I thought I would dip over to the fan page, the Facebook fan page.
Take a walk on the wild side?
I feel like people don't know about the Facebook fan page. There's a lot of really fun things happening, including patron Emily, whom we've met a couple times. She has a picture of herself on the fan page in what she says, if Carl Jung...
Oh, the costume. This is hilarious.
If Carl Jung were a Jedi, he'd be a Jung Padawan. So she has like a Padawan thing on and a name tag that says Carl, and she has a lightsaber. This is a you. This is a you.
Yes, this is.
Tell us the Halloween.
My own heart.
Your last Halloween cut.
Oh my gosh, what was I?
It was Harry Potter.
Potter. Oh yeah, Harry Poe Dameron or something like that.
Yeah,
I forgot what. But I had the Chewbacca. It was a mixture of things, right? I had the Chewbacca bandolier. Is that what you call it? The thing. And I had the Poe Dameron jacket.
Yeah.
But I had...
you also had a
Harry Potter lightning scar.
But you also had a lightsaber.
And a lightsaber.
Which makes no sense, because Poe Dameron never touched a lightsaber.
But Chewbacca
never did.
But Harry Potter...
Yeah. Let's see, what else we're looking at here. Other people posting articles. Lyndon, April, Amy... Emily, lots of stuff by the hardcore people. And you said something about a month ago I just literally witnessed a literal murder.
Yes.
What?
This was in reference to Eminem retorting rapidly to Machine Gun Kelly.
Right.
The fantastic kill shot.
Karen posted. Anyway, if you're a fan of the podcast, I recommend going to there. It's kind of fun. Okay, so I thought we would just end the podcast here with just some random stuff. So I'm reworking the website.
You had mentioned that you were looking at the Patron capabilities, the Patreon.
Oh, that, but also, which I won't go into right now, but I'm completely from the ground up, completely rebuilding the website so that it's more organized. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm doing, because we have 800 episodes,
right?
I am making categories. So
nice.
So there's like a page for evolutionary psychology episodes.
That's smart.
And a page for new students in psychology, a page for family system stuff, a page for sexuality, a page for TV and movies, a page,
nice.
There's probably like 12 different categories.
That's great.
Because, for listeners to be able to find things more easily.
They got to scroll through everything right now.
Right. And for me, because I'm like, did we do an episode? Like, I forget what episodes.
Ted Bundy. We've never done Ted Bundy.
Right. So go to the website. I'm pretty proud of the work there.
You're proud of it, huh?
Also, I want people to send in questions that you might have that Berto might be able to answer. Because whenever Berto and I sit down to do a podcast together, I look through questions that people have asked.
Oh, yeah.
And the vast majority of the questions, Humberto doesn't have the ability to answer these questions. But I know there's a lot of questions that Berto can answer that both of us can answer, for example. And so if you could send maybe questions around that, that'd be good, particularly if they're short and concise. Not like people will be like, so what's up with Roseanne Barr? It's just like that question. I'm such a perfectionist. It will take me so long, and I'll probably do it like 5 years from now when I get around to it. But it's so hard for me to answer.
It's very open-ended.
Yeah.
What is up with her?
Right. Questions that are more likely to get answered on the podcast are things like, I'm just think of a question that you'd be, like, are you proud to be an American?
Right.
For example.
Right.
Just like, so Kirk and Humberto, talk about whether or not you're proud to be an American.
Right.
Those kinds of questions. Or
talk more about your hatred towards Rilo.
Yeah. Raylo.
I can't even get myself to say
it. You're so feeble. Anyway. Or what movie do you think represents you the best? Or what movie do you think has the best psychological message? Those
sound like great questions. We should be answering some of these questions. What's your favorite color of ice cream?
So I want to do a gripe or wrath, Berto.
Oh, it's great. I haven't done these in a while, and I have one total gripe of wrath.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Well, go for it. Tell me yours.
All right. So my latest gripe of wrath is it's once again a social post one. It's the one where someone makes a social post that's super inflammatory, and then when they get challenged, they pull hey, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah.
Right? So the example was someone posted, the recent example, someone posted they copy-pasted someone else's thing, theorizing that the caravan coming from in South America, in Central America, was very suspicious timing, probably funded by Soros right before the election to gain sympathy for the Democrats, right? And myself and many others posted, just started pointing out all the ridiculous parts of this. And my main point was, for example, if anyone funded it, wouldn't it have been, to help, look at this horde coming towards us. We need a wall now, right? Like that kind of thing. But then it immediately became, hey, I'm just asking the question. Look, I just find it still suspicious. I'm not saying it is. I just find it interesting. I'm just asking the question. And that is ridiculous because you've already poured gasoline and lit it on fire. Now you're like, I just wondered if it's warm out here. It's like, this is not fair. And this happens a lot.
Well, the way I would characterize it, the argument is you're not just asking a question.
You're not just asking a question.
What you're doing is you're you're actually, whether you know it or not, and I think you do, you are giving this point of view support by even posting it. By posting it, you're not just asking a question. You're thinking it's very possible and might even be likely.
Right.
So backing away and saying you're just asking a question is disingenuous.
Yeah, like if
because there's a lot of questions one could ask.
Right.
Like, hey, you post on the internet, the moon is made of cheese.
Right.
And you're like, no. Well, I'm just asking questions.
I'm just, or I post like, did Richard Gere take 2 or 3 hamsters up his butt?
Right.
And someone's like, that's a complete fabrication. I'm like, hey, I'm just asking a question here.
Or Obama wasn't born in the United States. Hey, I'm just asking a question.
I'm just asking a question. Yeah, exactly. So that's my gripe of wrath.
So I talked recently about my Cuba trip.
Yes.
Right. Well, it occurred to me afterwards that I didn't mention one thing that happened to me that was sort of
gripey.
That was very gripey. So I talked about how great Havana was and the people, but also how sad it was to see the poverty and the way they're just cut off from the world, and how it doesn't seem to be likely to change anytime soon, and how a lot of the people hate living there that I talked to, and how sick I got. I talked about and by the way, it's a week and a half after I got back.
Still feeling it,
and my stomach is still not right. Yeah, but anyway, so I talked about how it's a day of flying back to Seattle, and wake up in the morning and I am having just massive diarrhea, and I'm so worried I'm going to crap my pants. And we fly to Florida and Orlando, and then I'm in the airport for like 6 hours before my flight back to Seattle.
Right.
It was the only way it would work out that way. And so I'm in the airport, and I'm feeling miserable. I'm feeling better as the day progressed, but I'm still feeling pretty bad.
You didn't go to Disneyland under those circumstances?
Yeah. And I got my boarding pass, naturally, and she circled where I was supposed to pay attention to. So the boarding time was it's important. The boarding time was 6:20, I believe. So yeah, pretty sure boarding. So it says boarding time 6:20, and then usually it says the gate.
Right.
But it didn't say the gate. It had. I'll try to describe because it's kind of important. There were just these 2 tiny little ones next to each other that it made it look like an 11. Okay?
Yeah.
Printed on the thing.
On the ticket.
There's no gate 11. It's just these 2 little numbers. They almost look like typos.
Yeah.
And then there's this handwritten 1 kind of next to the 11.
Okay.
But like also on a crease on the boarding pass. So
maybe like it tried to print the number 1 twice and failed, and then it wrote it?
Or she was trying to correct. I don't know.
Okay.
But but eventually I grabbed someone. I asked for someone else's boarding pass because I was trying to figure out like, where is the gate number on this thing? And other people had just right where it should be, this big thing, gate 15.
Right.
And mine just did not have that. It only had in that space these 2 little ones with this other like kind of weird ink like slash further away from the 2 ones. So I'm like
Roman numerals.
So I'm like, well, it's probably gate 11. So, but I'm like, I have 6 hours, So
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. So I go to gate 11, and it's an Alaska gate. So Alaska, I know my flight is Alaska.
Right.
I also suspect that there aren't that many Alaska gates, because how many flights are flying out of Orlando to this, the Seattle, San Diego, LA area or whatever. So I'm like, I go to gate 11, and I think Orlando, the airport has like 150 gates or 200 gates.
Yeah, that's huge.
So I'm like, well, this must be it. And but the flight currently that they're boarding is not going to Seattle. It's going somewhere else because it's 6 hours early.
Yeah.
I try to find someone to talk to. There isn't a single person at any of the gates. I find a Frontier gate, I'm looking at the reader board, right? And there's no listing of a Seattle flight, but I'm thinking, well, it's 6 hours early. Maybe they don't have it listed yet.
Right.
I get to the Frontier gate, which is nearby, and I go up to the guy and I'm like, so here's my boarding pass. Can you tell what gate I'm supposed to be at? Or can you look on your computer and see what my flight? And he's like, hey, I don't work for Alaska. I don't work for Alaska. And I'm like, well, could you just, because I can't figure out if it looks like gate 11 is my gate 6 hours from now, but I don't really know. He's like, hey, I don't work for Alaska.
Jesus.
And I'm like, in my head, it sort of threw me as I'm walking away. I'm like, fuck that. He has access to every single flight on his computer. So I'm like, well, it's probably this gate, you know, because all the other gates are not Alaska. I don't see any other Alaska gates anywhere. And so I'm like, well, it's probably this gate. So I hang out, I take a nap, you know, I get some food. I'm going to the bathroom every 15 minutes. And then just before the flight, and I like to board late.
Sure.
I don't like, people are always clamoring to get on.
Right.
One, I always check my bags. I know it's an extra $25, but I just hate lugging around, you know, luggage.
And trying to fit it in and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate fighting over the overhead. And I just like to be kind of free from all that.
Wait for the horde to make its way in.
Right. So I like to, best case scenario, I'm the last person and I was so late that I just walked down the tunnel and got right into the airplane, you know?
Right.
So that's my best case scenario. And I ruined someone's day because they're like, oh, I thought it was an empty seat, you know? But anyway, so again, it's boarding about 6:20. It's about 6 o'clock right now. And I'm looking at the gate and it's not
changing.
It's not, well, it's a different flight to a different city.
Yeah.
But it's not to Seattle.
And it is Alaska.
It is Alaska. Okay. Again, I'm like trying to find anyone I can ask.
Yeah.
And there's no customer service. There's no information booth. At this point, I'm kind of frantically.
They don't have one of those little boards?
They do.
Okay.
But so Orlando has different wings.
Yeah, right.
Different terminal wings.
Yeah.
And they don't list every flight. They only list the flights of that wing.
Right.
Which is pretty dumb when you think about it. Like, just add one more screen and have like a rotating thing of every flight at the. So now I'm looking at the board and it's like there's no flight to Seattle.
Right.
And in my head I'm in the wing from like 1 to 50. It's the 1 to 50 wing. Mm-hmm. And in my head I didn't realize there were other wings.
Oh God.
So I'm thinking I thought there's only 50 terminals. Right. Anyway. So I'm feverish, I'm diarrhea-y.
Oh man.
I'm tired. I'm like, I just got to get home. But I'm like, what is happening? I don't know what's happening. So I go back to the security. I go all the way back to the very beginning. Uh-huh. And again, I'm trying to find a reader board that will show where Seattle is. No reader board anywhere. In Seattle at SeaTac.
There are reader boards.
There are reader boards before security and after security. As soon as you get through security, there's that massive bank of like every flight in the entire airport. Yeah. And it's a huge bank.
Yeah.
In Orlando, after security, there is no such thing.
Oh my gosh.
And there's no information person. So I go up to one of the TSA agents.
Yeah.
And I just go, so I'm kind of freaking out right now. Can you tell me what gate I'm supposed to be at? And I show them the
ticket.
The boarding pass. And they're like, I can't tell. Like, I can't tell. Like, so a professional cannot
tell you.
They're like, it's not really listed there. And so I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. My flight is going to board in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do. And so I'm sort of panicking. I go to another TSA agent. And they're like, I don't know. I can't really answer that question.
I don't work for Alaska.
Yeah. And so finally I'm just like, okay, how do I figure this out? And I'm like, oh, Alaska, the website probably has the gate number. So my, spotty internet connection, I go to alaska.com and I go through all the menu, blah, blah, blah. And I figure out the gate I'm supposed to be at is 112.
Oh, a different wing.
112.
Right.
Nowhere on my boarding pass is it listed. And so I asked someone.
So maybe it was 1-1 and then it missed the 2 and she was trying to write the 2.
Who knows? But if I showed you the boarding pass, you'd be like, that looks like a typo.
Right.
It looks like, it doesn't look like anything that's supposed to be meaningful.
Right.
You know, these tiny little,
lines.
Yeah. And it was just, it said 11 with, anyway. So I can't remember, there's some sort of odyssey that happens at one point. And then finally, I just walk up to another woman who looks like she's a TSA agent, but she looks like she's getting off work. And and I walk up to her and I'm just like, so I think I'm trying to get to,
Gate 112.
No. Yeah. I can't remember the sequence, but anyway, I ask her and she's like, oh, well, you have to get on this other tram. And
oh my God.
Yeah, you have to get on this other tram,
right.
the purple tram. And that's the other thing, like the trams were different colors, but the trams weren't actually different colors. It was like these weird neon signs that kind of had a color to it.
Oh no.
It was the most confusing fucking airport. So anyway, so I'm like, well, now it's 6:20.
Jeez.
And the plane is boarding. I am not where I'm supposed to be. So I say to her, "Can you help me find?" She's like, okay, yeah, I'll show you. I'll just follow me because she's like, I'm heading that direction anyway. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Jeez.
She's gonna show me where to go.
Right.
I'll be fashionably late, but I'll get on the plane.
Right.
So we have to get into another tram, which we get into another tram. The tram stops. She gets off. I follow her. And we're walking down this hall, and about maybe 10 seconds down the hallway, I'm like, wait a second. You know that those hallways when you're walking and it's like you've passed the point of no return for security?
Yeah.
And you can't go back?
Yes.
You know those
yes,
where you're like,
where you're exiting, basically.
Yeah, you're now heading towards baggage claim.
Yeah.
About maybe just like 3 seconds getting off the tram, I stop in my tracks and I look at the woman and I'm like, are we heading out of security? And she looks at me and she's like, oh. And she's like, yeah.
Because she's allowed to.
Well, I don't know.
She's leaving.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what she made a mistake.
Yeah.
And so we walk up to the security woman, the other TSA.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can I get back on the tram? And she's like, no.
No, you got to go through security.
You got to go through security.
But no, I just got off. I'm trying to get to the...
And this woman
She was the one guiding me.
She was the one.
Sorry, sir. We are robots.
And I'm like, so I'm like, yeah, now it's 6:25.
Will they have at least expedite you to the front of the line? No.
No. So now I run back to the very beginning of the airport. And I finally see on the reader board, a reader board with my flight.
Yes.
Because it's on the other fucking side of security.
Yes.
And it does say 112. So I'm like,
oh my God.
because I didn't know if the website was wrong.
Right.
So I finally have this thing and I go to I have this conversation with someone at the reader board. I get to security and I get to one of the TSA people there and I'm like, so I'm late for my flight. Is it okay if I move to the front of the line? They're like, do you have TSA pre-check? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, no.
Yeah.
So then I get in line and now it's 6:30.
Oh, Jesus.
So now I'm in fucking security line.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm sweating bullets.
And you had 6 hours.
I had 6 hours. Now in my head, I'm like, well, worst case scenario, I miss my flight.
Yes.
I've never been in this situation, but can't you just like pay a couple $100 and like get on another flight?
Usually.
Like they'll just
unless it's the last flight of the day, in which case they have to put you on the next day, in which case you have to get a hotel and blah, blah, blah.
Which I wouldn't mind because I didn't work the next day and it would have sucked, but whatever. So I am in security, but I'm also like, I am massively sick and I need to get home because I can't cope with anything at this point, So I'm in security and then I'm like, the only way this is going to work, and it probably won't, is if I somehow cut in front of these dozens of people. Right. And so I'm just like, fuck it. I never would have done this before. I feel like this is actually me maturing. It's like, rewind the clock, even just 4 years, I would have just been like, well, I guess I'm fucked.
Right.
But I feel like I've gotten to this point now where I'm just like, you know what? Just ask. You know what I mean? So I just started asking. I mean, would you ask in a situation like that to cut in line?
Yes, I have.
Oh,
I have. Not, of course, I wasn't in the same situation. In your situation, I definitely would have.
because it's not my fault.
No, mine. I actually was just late. I was just late,
And you asked to cut?
and I asked, and I think there were like 4 people. 3 of them let me, and the 4th one was like, "No, you just got to plan better next time."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Come on," and they didn't, and I just so. It didn't work, but I absolutely asked.
Wow. So I asked, and I said, is it okay if I cut because my flight is boarding right now?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And I asked again. They're like, yes. Asked again, yes. Asked again, yes. Asked again, and this woman's like, when is your flight boarding? And I'm like, it started boarding 20 minutes ago. And she's like, oh, okay, yes. And she thought I was just being...
Like I only have 15 minutes till it starts boarding.
Yeah, no. I was like, it's boarding now.
Like it boarded.
And she's like, yeah. She's like, oh, okay. So I get in front. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm at the front of the line. So I work my way through that. But now I'm in now I'm at the x-ray machine. And you know how long that can take.
Yes.
And that I can't really cut in front because there's TSA agents involved. There's like material items on the belt
You don't have anything going through because you're...
Well, I have my backpack.
Oh, your backpack, yes.
Yeah.
But not your bag, not your suitcases.
Right. Yeah. So but I'm waiting for everyone else. Anyway, I get through that. That took forever. That was probably like 10 minutes in and of itself. I grab my shoes. I can see the tram and the doors are closing. Oh, God. I run, shoes in my hand, and make it just in time.
Oh, epic.
And in my head, I'm like, I don't even know if this is the right tram.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Get on the tram, get off the tram, put my shoes on during the tram. Is tram the right word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get off the tram. I'm sprinting through the airport, and I'm like...
And you're like sprinting under fever and like dehydration.
And Rhea.
So you're leaving a nice little trail for everyone.
Yeah. And I get to the gate, and there's no one there. And I'm like, I'm done.
Oh, my God.
But the door is open.
Yes.
And then I catch, there's still an Alaska, steward person.
Yeah.
And I get to the thing, and they let me on the plane.
Oh, epic.
And I was the last.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, I was the
last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, just the last.
That's crazy.
Barely made it. Yeah.
That's nice that they let you on, because I had in Houston one time, I got there 1 minute. They had just 1 minute, and they would refuse. They refused to budge. And so and that was one going to Colombia. So I had to wait till the next day. That was the last one of the day.
Yeah.
And it wasn't my fault either, because they make these connections that are super tight. And so the other flight just came in later, and it was like 20 minutes, and I need to run a clear across to the other terminal. And I ran and sprinted. So it was 1 minute. 1 minute.
See, that's bullshit.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's not your fault.
Same airline, too.
Not your fault.
Not my fault.
I feel like they should work with you in that.
Well, I had to argue and fight, and they finally agreed to pay for my hotel. They weren't going to.
Oh, my God. That's so bullshit. It's like, it's
actually,
not your...
wait a minute. They didn't pay for my hotel. Never mind. What they did was they gave me a coupon. They gave me a freaking food coupon.
Are they just thinking like, well, it's your fault for scheduling a tight...
Maybe, but they offered that. They're the ones that offered that connection.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Right. When you buy the tickets, they offer these.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's an epic story. And your gripe of Riot, I take it, is that with the Orlando airport.
Yeah, it's the boarding pass. But mainly what it was no information.
Signs, yeah.
No one to talk.
No one wanted to help you.
No one to help me.
Yeah.
no information and nothing after
Security.
after security. There was an information booth and all the flight information before security, but after security, no information. Like, why would you have that? Like, I'm a intelligent person with, a little bit of time on the right side of security trying to figure out where my gate is. And I can't figure that.
Yeah.
I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
That seems wrong.
That does seem wrong.
Any other gripes? Maybe we should just continue with some gripes here. I have a list of gripes that I've been saving for a long time.
Saving your gripes. Okay, well, I have a minor gripe, but so I understand. In fact, I get very annoyed when someone texts me and they expect me to text them back immediately.
Oh.
That's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
So that'd be like a minor gripe. But I have an even bigger gripe with the opposite extreme, where I send a text, no reply, no worry. Different part of the day, or maybe even a different day, same person, same stream. I send another text, different topic. No reply. Okay, they're busy. It's fine. Like a week goes by, and I've sent multiple texts about different things, nothing. And I finally just kind of stop. 2 weeks later, this person sends me a text as if I've never texted anything in between, asking me something completely different. And then I'm like, why do you ignore all these texts and now you want to like just ask me something else? Like, don't you at least need to say, hey, sorry, I've been busy. I didn't mean to ignore you. But anyways, what about the Huskies? Instead, what about the Huskies?
Well, why do you think they do that?
Okay, so this person in particular does go dark. So for a while, like they'll be engaged, we talk, and then all of a sudden they'll go dark, and I won't hear from them for a few weeks.
So it's a pattern.
It is a pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. There are times when I text you about things like the podcast, like someone changed the password of the podcast earlier this week. And in the past, you were not as responsive as you are now.
This is true. There's also different places that I am more responsive on than others, meaning it used to be I never looked at Messenger, like Facebook Messenger. And I remember you would send me some Facebook Messenger stuff. And then eventually I'd be like, oh, sorry. Whereas I was more like on a text message, I might have been more responsive.
Which I get.
Emails, like I've been checking them more regularly, but for a while I was like, shit, I have a ton of emails I haven't checked, So it definitely varies, but
yeah, I get that. I mean, some people don't use Facebook Messenger. I have on my phone integrated text and Facebook Messenger together. Essentially, I gave permission to Facebook Messenger to my texts.
Yeah. And
so sometimes when I think I'm texting someone, I'm actually Facebook messaging them because I didn't look closely enough.
Yeah.
And I know with some people I need to text them. Anyway, the point is that I'm pretty responsive, as I think you know, to all communication. I'm known at my university for being like savant, like when I respond back to emails at work. I mean, so tell me what you think about this. So I find myself not to be like abnormally responsive to emails and texts, but people will say at the university, if you want an answer, ask Kirk. If you want an answer quick,
right,
email Professor Kirk. He will get back to you right away. And for me, what I think it is, and you tell me if because you don't respond to every email very quickly from what you're saying. Having said that, I just want to say as a caveat, you're actually pretty responsive to me now. Like in the past, I don't know, a couple of years, you've been pretty good. But in the past, like there were times when I was just like, I just was like,
you have to see me in person.
There's like a 50% chance that this normal text, even if it was a text,
sure,
he will not respond to it.
Right.
Like I just won't get an answer, and it was usually over things that I could tell that you were not sure of. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Like if
giving you an answer was a longer involved process or something.
Longer involved process for you.
For me.
Right. Like you would have to ask questions of people or, but if it was an easy thing, like what's your name, you would get back to me right away. But if it was something like, like can you podcast on this date or something? And it was like a questionable schedule for you. You just wouldn't reply.
Right.
Now you don't do that anymore. But anyway, so I feel like my responsiveness to emails and stuff is that, as you can see right here, this is my desk. This is my work desk, and I have a desktop computer, not a laptop, and I have a giant screen that I use, and I have a nice mouse and a nice keyboard. And a nice big table that doesn't have anything on it. I mean, I have my shirt on it right now, but I have a very clean workspace, and I keep it very clean.
Right.
And I'm often sitting here doing various things, whether it's finances or podcasting or planning for school or correcting papers or responding to emails or Facebooking with my mom or something. A lot of it just happens right here, and I'm rarely on my phone. So if I'm on my phone in my living room and someone someone emails me or something, I'll get up and come to my desktop computer and I'll reply. I don't reply over the phone because the phone is so inconvenient compared to a nice big keyboard and a nice big screen. And a desktop computer, the quickness that I can do things on a computer.
Oh, it's much faster.
Yeah.
Multitasking is.
Yeah. It's probably at least twice as fast than even a laptop.
Right.
Because a laptop, you got that tiny little touchpad and you have
less real estate on the screen.
Yeah, and the keyboard isn't as satisfying. I mean, I just love normal desktop computer keyboards because they have a separate number pad. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you have to, the number pad on the right. You know what I mean?
Are you left-handed?
No, why?
Where's your mouse?
It's right here.
Oh.
So what I think is the reason why I'm comparatively faster to respond than other people is because I am 99% of the time
at your desk,
at my desk with my computer right there. And as soon as I get an email, it takes me literally 3 seconds to see it and reply.
Right.
Whereas a lot of people, this is my hypothesis, have completely got rid of their desktop computer.
Right. And they most have a laptop.
Most have a laptop. And it's not on a desk. The laptop is on their lap.
Yeah.
Like they're watching TV and their laptop is sitting next to them. And
they might just have their phone.
Or they just have their phone.
Right.
And so they get the email on the phone and it's a tiny.
Right. And like emails seem a lot longer on a phone screen because it's more less columns.
Right.
So you have to scroll more and you're like, God, this is a long essay. I can't.
Yeah. So do you think that's the reason?
That's got to contribute.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of it. I think the other thing is just...
Do you have a desktop?
At home, but I'm rarely at it.
That's just like your music desktop, right?
Yeah.
But you don't use it.
I mean, when I'm at it. But actually, a lot of times when I'm doing music, I unplug from the internet that computer just so it doesn't mess with anything.
Right. So I think that's a factor, and I feel like quote unquote progress with devices has actually led to less progress. I feel like our progress towards better phones, blah blah,
right,
has led to people being less productive, spending more time and energy on communication than if they had a good desk with a good keyboard and a big screen and a nice mouse. Like, if you have that, I just can't imagine I would be like everyone else if I just had a laptop and a phone. I would be like, I'm not going to reply to that.
Well, part of the issue for me, I can't speak for others, but is due to the nature of my job, making red balloons for children, I'm on email all day long, and not just email. I have multiple windows of communication open. Some of them are direct messaging.
On your laptop or work?
On my laptop and or desktop. Right?
You're like a work desktop?
Yeah, like I have both. And it's like, and so I'm gonna be replying to emails all day long, checking my calendar to see which is the next meeting, with several chat windows open, and another tool that we write incidents about balloons on and all these kinds of things, all day long. So if someone sends me like social stuff, it's like overflow on top of overflow, And then after work, I'm like, I'll check Facebook and I'll be like, boom.
From your phone?
From my phone, yeah. And then every now and then, every other day or so, I'll check my Gmail account. And I'll be like, oh, look at that. And I got like 100 new emails or something. And
Oh, really? You don't check your
Not daily.
Gmail account?
Not daily.
What's your regular?
That's my regular account.
Oh.
I don't check it daily. Because
So you have like a work email or something?
yeah, my work email is like constant.
It's a different email account?
Yeah. And then my Facebook Messenger, nowadays, I do check it because I have the app installed next to it, so I see when it's got a little red number on it and all these kinds of things. And then like WhatsApp, I get like tons of WhatsApp messages from my Colombian WhatsApp groups, and a lot of times I ignore those because it's just like spammy conversation. So I think part of my issue is I just have too much communication at all times. So I tend to feel overloaded by communication, and then I'm like, if there's anything I can put off, and as you've pointed out, I do it less now because part of it is I've actually triaged things away, like gotten rid of a lot of email memberships and things. So I actually have a lot less email now than I used to, because it used to be like hundreds and hundreds of pointless emails from things that I was subscribed to that didn't matter at all, right?
Yeah, and one of the most enjoyable things I do in my day is
unsubscribe. Yes. Yeah.
Or flag as like, I'd never want to see an email from this account again.
Right.
I do that to phone too, because the 98% of the phone calls I get are spam now. I mean, do you get that?
Oh yeah, no, I don't answer my phone. I get probably 20 calls a day, and I don't answer any of them.
When did that fucking happen? Because like up until maybe just 2 years ago, I've had a cell phone since the early aughts, right? And I remember saying to people, I don't think I've got a spam phone call in 5 years. Like it would happen almost never.
I would usually get them, but it would be like, oh, what's this number? Hello? Oh, no, never mind. Nowadays, I can't pick, unless it's one or two numbers that I recognize, I never use my phone.
Yeah, I get daily. I mean, maybe not so much lately because I've been blocking, but I would say...
How do you block a number?
You could just block it. I mean... I have Android. I don't know if...
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I routinely block... I probably block, on average, one number a day, where it's just like, oh, another spam person, I'll block this person. And I just find that to be not cool. Like... When it comes to Gmail, for example, I just feel like I have AT&T. Mm-hmm. I just feel like AT&T should have an option of just like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like your phone service is like basically just one big fucking spam situation.
Yeah, right.
Like that's why like people switched. I remember a big reason why people switched, 10 years ago from Hotmail to Gmail.
Right.
Was because Gmail had a superior spam algorithm.
Totally.
Hotmail had a really hard time. Like half of spam would get through. Gmail, it was like never. Like it was just like they were perfect. It was they never put the spam folder things that you wanted, and they never put spam in your regular inbox. And I just feel like AT&T should have some option like that.
Yeah.
Because basically, I'm at this point considering getting rid of my cell phone number. Because it's like most of the people calling me are spam.
Yeah.
And because you can do FaceTime through Facebook, and there's probably an app where you just like, dial this number and you can call my phone.
Yeah, totally.
It just seems like there's got to be an answer.
I mean, that's kind of what I've done, other than the fact that it's still a nuisance because I always have my phone on silent, so I don't hear. But actually, now that I have my watch, it does ring my stupid watch.
Yeah.
And so actually, I'll be all through the day in meetings, and I basically have to set my watch to airplane mode. Otherwise, it's just going to ring.
Yeah.
It is really out of control.
I think it's so cheap for these spam phone people to do it that because how many people are actually answering and then talking and then buying what the fuck they're selling. And the very few times when I actually do pick up the phone and actually like take a chance, these are some of the worst fucking salespeople I've ever heard. Like yesterday I did this. I was like, okay, fuck it, I'll answer. I don't know. And I answered it, and the person's like, I'm like, hello? And they're like, oh, is Kirk Honda there? And I'm like, yep, it's me. Oh, well, like, I'm not exaggerating. I was like, if this is a spam call, this is the worst sales pitch I've ever.
God.
It was like, oh, well, so we were, I called you a while back about a line of credit.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, take me off the list, hang up. And I'm just thinking, like, how much money is this organization making from, how many people actually pick up the phone?
This?
Yeah, how many people pick up the phone? How many people? And so it must be so cheap for them to do this that I just feel like there's some service that you could sign up for. I'd gladly pay $10 a month for AT&T to get rid of this. So if I could get, I would pay $50 a month so that I knew every person who called me was a legit phone call.
Yeah.
Like, I would pay a lot of money for that
Some
service.
Premium, like, hey, guarantee my phone like peace of mind.
Yeah, like, what a big request. I request that only legitimate phone calls ring my cell phone. I request that only people who legitimately want to talk with me about not trying to sell me things. It's just like, it's so funny how we just have gotten used to it, This has gone into another gripe of wrath. But anyway,
that is a good one, though. It's a common complaint.
Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining us out there. Please take care of yourself because
you deserve it.